Ready to go?
Go for it.
Okay. So, I'm going to welcome Sean to the podcast. Welcome. How are you?
It's a pleasure to be here. Drive-through was not ideal in the weather, but happy to be here.
Edinburgh to Wishaw.
I'm coming from the nice bit, coming to the less glamorous bit through here.
Oh, be careful what you're saying. I'm not from Wishaw, but there might be some people from Wishaw listening, so be careful.
Have to be careful.
Yeah, definitely be careful. Okay, so shout out to G4 Claims, as always. Beautiful studio.
I'm well impressed.
Sean was impressed.
Good coffee as well. It's always a bonus.
Free coffee.
Can't argue with that.
Okay, so for those of you who don't know who Sean is, I'm going to give them a little background, and if I've butchered it, then you can...
I just jump in at any point and correct you.
Exactly. So Sean is 23 years old. He formerly was a football player, played for Hearts, Hamilton, youth career, Scotland internationalist as well. And then you moved on to Berwick Rangers, Selkirk, Gallifreydine Rovers and Kelty Hearts.
Yep.
And you then became a personal trainer and now turned owner of a gym in the heart of Edinburgh.
Yep.
Yeah?
Pretty much spot on.
Is that pretty much spot on?
I did personal training alongside the sort of part-time football, but other than that, spot on.
Perfect. So we will get back into the kind of football stuff.
Yep.
But what I like to do, just to give people an idea of who you are and what your life's like and what you do, is basically, can you talk us through a day in the life of Sean McKirdy? Maybe not today, but like a standard day as a gym, as a business owner, as a gym owner.
So away. The stage we're kind of at with the gym is that my week is almost split 50-50 between being a coach at the gym and being the business owner, runner of the gym. So we are kind of still at a point where I'm coaching anywhere from 30 to 40 hours a week on the floor, kind of speaking to people, but then I obviously have financials to manage, 2 full-time staff to kind of keep on top of. It's hard work, but it means I've got a really nice balance as well, that I'm not kind of just doing one thing over and over. I'll maybe have 3-4 hours of coaching in the morning, so typically I get up pretty early. I'm up 5 o'clock most days. I'll typically coach from 6 till 10 kind of time. Occasionally I'll have lunchtime classes and whatnot, but during the day I typically get my own training done, any admin stuff, marketing, social media, catch-ups with people I need to catch up with, and then I'll coach at night. So nothing super glamorous, super exciting, but gives me a good bit of variety. I have my bits of free time to read, to train myself, and it means I can stay on top of everything I need to stay on top of within the business, whether that's finance stuff, the staff, getting new equipment, sorting new plans out and all that kind of thing.
So the evening sessions, what kind of time does that begin?
So generally the evening session starts about 4 or 5 p.m. and I can work to 8 or 9 p.m. usually. So it's quite sort of long drawn out days from getting up at 5 to work right through till 9 a lot of nights. The only thing is I do get a lot of gaps during the day. So whereas the typical person would maybe finish at 5, they'd go home, have dinner, watch TV. That kind of time for me is 2, 3, 4 in the afternoon. However,
you snooze during the day? No? Get a bed out in that gym?
I'm better now. So when I first started and I was playing part-time alongside it, I was a nap every day. Yeah. Now I can kind of control it a little bit. And I was going to say, this is the first time probably ever for me, I get maybe one night every 2 weeks off where I don't have to do anything with having staff and stuff, which for me feels like a big massive relief. It's like, wow, I've actually got time to get away here, which was the whole idea, kind of opening the gym, starting the business and stuff. So it's good in that sense, but it does, you get burnout at different points from burning the candle a bit at both ends, probably in terms of getting up crazy early, working till crazy late. And it can be hard to switch off during the day because at night, if I have the odd night off, my girlfriend, family, friends, they're not working, so it means I can do stuff with them, I can chat to them, but during the day everyone else is kind of at work or whatever, so it means for me it's very easy to just think, well, this needs done, that needs done. I could brainstorm this new idea, and it means it becomes that sort of 24/7 thing, which is when burnout tends to happen. So just something to be careful of. Yeah.
So you're obviously very hands-on, very hard-working from the sounds of that. Is the gym open 7 days a week?
So we are open 7 days a week. Sundays were a bit more sort of ad hoc. Okay. We'll have just a couple of classes on. But yeah, Monday through Saturday, it's pretty full on. And typically, even if I'm not actually on the floor coaching, I do like to be there for the most part of it. Just it's only a year old, still a new business and stuff. And there's typically people there that I want to see, I want to speak to, kind of help the staff out where I can. So it means it's quite demanding, but we've created somewhere that's quite a nice atmosphere to be. So as much as that sounds tough, and it is, it's not like it's a drag to kind of get myself there. You know, I enjoy being at the gym. It's somewhere that I get a lot of pleasure out of being.
Yeah, hats off to you, mate, because that's hard work, long hours, and it's interesting because similar, not obviously similar to yourself, but I'm also doing my own thing, and it's that kind of thing where if you do have a moment's peace or a minute's rest or an hour's rest, you're constantly thinking about, okay, what about this and this and this and this, and maybe I could do this or this. It's almost like,
I think it's the curse of being self-employed or doing your own thing, is that I get times where my dad will take the mickey out me, and he'll be like, oh, you're doing absolutely nothing during the day when I come here. And I'm like, nah, actually, I'm thinking of this. I've got this to sort. You know, we need a new marketing plan. We're going to have this problem with members come next month. And your brain just doesn't switch off. It's always something else that can come up. And it's not like you work till 5 o'clock on a Friday and that's you till Monday morning. There's always something. And the thing for me, especially with having a physical location, you're always really on call. As long as the gym's kind of open, something can come up. This morning our boiler broke, and it's like that's something you need to sort. That even if I've got a 2-day holiday planned, it's like, well, that comes to priority. People need a shower after
just
the
tell
session.
all the gym goers to get their thermals
have a freezing
on,
cold shower.
Gloves.
Don't know how that would go down. We'll try that next time.
No, but honestly, mate, it's impressive what you're doing, and I think it's really cool as well, especially at a young age, being 23. There can't be many 23-year-old gym owners.
I've not came across too many. Everyone I speak to tends to be older. I think probably, I dare say, we'll come on to it with football and stuff. Everything I've kind of done so far in my life, in my career, I've started young, which means I get a lot of experiences young, which means I'm probably ahead of the stage I'm at for my actual age. So, you know, although I am 23, I've done the same amount of personal training. You know, I've done the employed stuff, I've done the self-employed stuff, as most people have done when they open a gym. It's just that I've done it a few years earlier, you know. So I started at 18, crammed in loads and loads of hours. The one benefit of working those crazy hours is that you condense a lot of experience into a short time frame, which means that you're maybe slightly ahead of the game for certain things. That means you can do it earlier. But although it's earlier, it's not actually in any less of a time frame. It's just that you've maybe condensed that to do it quicker. So,
quick question for you, right? So, from what you've said so far, it sounds like you've always been you're always one to keep yourself busy constantly. Why do you think you do that?
I don't know. I'm quite a reflective person. I'm quite self-aware, and I have pondered that a lot. The cliche sort of answer, my mum and dad have always been very hardworking. You know, my dad will get up at 5-6 in the morning for work every day. My mum, very hardworking as well. I think when I was younger, from probably a very, very young age, I had an awareness in football, which is all I wanted to do at a young age, that I wasn't probably technically very good. I think I came to that realisation a lot earlier than some people come to it, that I wasn't as talented as other boys that were in my team.
I'm laughing because I
maybe relate.
I resonate with that.
So I think like loads of boys come to that realisation, but it's maybe slightly later. You know, I'm talking 10, 11 years old, where it kind of hit me. It's like, I need to do stuff that these people aren't doing to get an advantage on them, whether that's going home and doing ladders in the garden, if it's reading books, if it's eating healthier, if it's going to my bed earlier. And I started doing that and quite quickly saw success out of it. And I think then your mind just sort of correlates the two between, I do these things, it works well for me, I'm going to keep doing them. You then get more success, and it's probably only exaggerated that moving into the fitness industry, where I think there's sometimes even more of a direct correlation between hard work and success. It's like, oh, when I did that, I got loads of new clients, I got loads of new business, I impacted loads more people, I earned more money. It's like, let's keep doing those things that are keeping me going. And then I think, you'll know this yourself, it just becomes routine and habit that I've always done that now, and it's worked for me so far, so I'm going to keep doing it. Don't get me wrong, there's times I'd love to change the way I am and change the way my brain's wired so that I do just finish on a Friday and just switch off for 48 hours. But I don't think I would probably be where I am if I had that bit of me. So it's got its positives and negatives.
You do enjoy it.
Well, that's the thing. It's like, I think when you speak to people and they hear how much you work and stuff, it's like they judge you for it, but I do enjoy it. You know, I still do get to spend time with family, friends. you know, the boys that work in the gym with me, I had class as friends. I get on really well with my clients. It's something that I'm passionate about doing, and it's not to judge anyone because I have my stages of doing it, but I speak to friends, family or whatever, and it's not as if they're doing anything super exciting in the time I'm working or learning. You know, they're watching Netflix series, they're doing stuff like that, and it just doesn't appeal to me. I think, you know, I'm growing something, I'm passionate about it, I can see the sort of fruits of my labour coming out, so why not throw myself into it? And then hopefully that gets to a point where at quite a young age I'm in that position of being able to say I'm going to keep working because I want to keep working rather than I need to do it to put food on the table the same way as other people maybe do.
No, it's really interesting to hear that, and your mindset is obviously very strong. You're very focused. You always have an idea in your head, a vision, and I can definitely sense that from the way you're chatting. See, in terms of your role right now as the gym owner, obviously you're doing everything. For example, right now you're having to look after the boiler. You're still very. It's only 1 year. The gym that was recently, wasn't it? Been open for 1 year.
It's just a year and a month now. Last November, and obviously lockdowns and stuff. It's not actually been a year open. It's been a year as a business, but we've had lockdowns and whatnot as well.
So do you see yourself always being as hands-on as you are, or is your vision to, you know, as the gym grows, you're able to maybe move into other bits and delegate more, that sort of thing? What's your idea on that?
100%. I think it gets quite deep, but someone I spoke to told me it maybe 3-4 years ago, and it's always really stuck with me, is a lot of people go through life not really thinking what they actually want. They just kind of let life happen to them, and they move along with that. And that comes to money as well. You know, I know loads of people, you'll have seen it, they chase pay rises that are actually making no difference to their life. It's like, I've took on 10 hours of extra stress a week for money that actually doesn't impact my life. I've always had the mindset to kind of work backwards of what do I want my life to look like? What do I want to be able to do? And then shift that to how can I achieve that? You know, how much money do I need? How much time do I need? For me, I want to fill my life with as many things that I enjoy doing as I can. So I enjoy coaching people, but I think there's a time limit on how much I can give them my best and how much I enjoy it. I don't enjoy having to deal with boilers, customer complaints, membership admin. So to me, I think I'd always do coaching in some respect, but I always describe it that in 3 years, my dream would be to work 30 hours a week, where 10 hours are coaching, you know, physically being with people. 10 hours a week, I think I will always have management responsibilities, whether it's tracking finances, whether it's dealing with staff, whether it's management, all that kind of stuff. And then 10 hours a week of almost cloud thinking. So I always describe it as that, where it's what can take us to the next level. What's something we can use as a competitive advantage? And I think if you get too busy wrapped up in the day-to-day coaching, cleaning, all that stuff, you don't allow yourself time to think of those things, which is what's needed to take you to the next level. So probably a mix of all three.
Okay, interesting. I think what you said there, what you touched on there, the last bit, the kind of, was it cloud?
Cloud thinking, yeah.
Cloud thinking, that's something that I definitely, I've not used that term for it, but it's something that I think is so valuable. I think sometimes it's easy to get caught up in, as you said, like the day-to-day of whatever it is you're doing, whether you're a business owner or anyone in any type of role or job, and you don't allow yourself time to actually like think about what you're doing, what are you actually doing, what direction are you going in, is it the one you want to go in? I think
that's massive. I think stuff will always come up, like your life's never going to be empty where there's no admin, there's no family stuff, life stuff to sort, and unless you kind of make time for that, it's not going to come. You need to kind of go out your way to say, I'm going to set aside an hour. You know, for me it's typically walking or going swimming and in the steam room and stuff, where I just get a chance to decompress and think. And I think it probably works both ways. If a lot of people, you'll know the same, that they just go through life and they would never think like that. But I also think the danger with the sort of modern world is people become so obsessed with learning, podcasts, books and stuff. And I've definitely been there myself, that you're constantly inputting information without giving yourself any time to actually think.
There's no action.
There's an output on this that, you know, that's what I'm going to use all this information to do. And so I think it's just finding that balance, and which is different for everyone. You know, there's times I can take a lot more information on, whereas there's times, you know, for us it's coming up that hopefully, touch wood, January, February, March is going to be all hands to deck in the gym with New Year's resolutions and stuff, where I don't have as much time to do that sort of stuff. But then I know right, at the end of March, I'm going to go away for 3 days, decompress and get that chance to do it. And just appreciating there'll be swings along the way, but you need to have some sort of longer term plan.
Yeah, definitely. So I think it is important to take that time for yourself to think about your longer term goals, what you're doing right now, and then to actually, like you said there's so much information, so much resources like podcasts, books, etc., that you can take on board, but you have to actually action them. I know people who, me being probably guilty of it as well, you have a lot of these things can inspire you, but it's actually, right, okay, what are you going to do about it? What action are you going to take?
It's totally, I think, one of
you've done it. You know what I mean? But the gym is like a physical example of...
Totally. I think one of my biggest strengths, and it's also probably at times a massive weakness, I'm very much someone who'll sign up, agree to do something, and work out how I'll do it after that, which can be a great thing. A few weeks ago, I did a crazy challenge on the ski machine that was like, I decided I was going to do it, put it out there, I was going to do it, and then it was like, right, how do I plan for this? What I'm actually going to do? I need to actually do this. So I don't think that's always a good thing, but I think sometimes people wait, and there's never going to be a perfect time to do something, whatever that is. It's like, I just need to take action on it and try and do it at some point.
Yeah. 100%. And I've got here 4,300 calories in 5 hours 46 minutes.
5 hours 46 minutes.
My notes are good.
Longest 5 hours 46 minutes of my life, but yeah,
That's crazy, mate.
It was
breaks,
like drinks breaks,
water
nothing
breaks.
else.
Just water breaks.
Just water breaks. No, I never even went to the toilet, which is a bit concerning for 6 hours, but it was rough.
Oh, that's
it was
impressive.
rough the last hour and a half. That was
how was the muscle soreness?
It was bizarre. The biggest thing that killed me by far was like my forearms started cramping with about an hour to go, which I thought was going to actually stop me doing it. I was like, I don't know if I'll manage this. But the next day, surprisingly, not great, but not as bad as expected. So touch wood, no ill effects. It was 10, 12 days ago now, so hopefully I'm
it was for November.
Yeah,
it was for November. Because the last time I saw you had a tash.
I did. Thank God it's gone before I'm on camera. But yeah, we all kind of did it in the gym. We've got quite a big sort of male clientele as well, and I think it's just an important charity we wanted to kind of raise awareness of in our own little way, and it was good that although it was me doing it, we got loads of members involved, they helped out, and it created a bit of a buzz, which is probably exactly what's needed for it.
Yeah. No, brilliant, mate. So we will touch more in the gym, but I want to talk a bit about football as well.
Yep.
So you can correct me if I'm wrong here, because Wikipedia isn't always
it's only got so much information.
Wikipedia is not always the most reliable. So I've got a couple of times here that you potentially made your debut, but I'm not sure which one you'll class it as. So this is when you were at Hearts.
Yep.
So I have here debut 20th of August 2014 in the second round of the Scottish Challenge Cup away to Livy.
I think that's technically correct. Never. It was the Petrofac Cup at the time for the lower league teams, and it was like the youngest Hearts team ever. I think there was like 7 debuts that night. So technically, that is right. But I always think of the other one as my kind of full debut.
Was that Championship debut?
Yeah, Wraith Rovers, I think it was.
Wraith Rovers,
at the end of the season sometime.
And then you also made your Premiership debut.
Yes.
On the 22nd of August 2015.
That's right. Partick Thistle, maybe. I thought that.
3-0 home win.
Yeah, that's right. I think that's the only reason I got on. I think is because we were winning 3-0.
So that was obviously, because I know you are a Hearts fan, and that was like your kind of boyhood club. So how was that for you? Being in the academy and then making your debut.
It's weird because looking back on it, it was absolutely amazing. I'd been at every Hearts game since I was like 5 years old with my dad. I think it's the only time I've ever seen my dad cry when I made my debut. That it meant so much to the family. But you'll probably appreciate this. It didn't feel as grand at the time because not in any sort of big-headed way, but it was just the sort of next logical step. It's like, well, you've played for 15s, you've played for the 17s, you've played for the 20s, you've trained with the first team, you've been 19th man for the first team, you've been on the bench for the first team. It just feels like the next logical step. I think it's the same thing now. You're in that bubble and it's hard to look out of it and see what you're actually doing, but it was obviously an amazing feeling to kind of do that. And I sometimes think, it certainly wasn't a conscious thing, but growing up maybe weirdly, as we spoke about, I was very driven, very hardworking, but I actually never thought any further than playing for Hearts, that that's what I wanted to do. And maybe I did that so young that I was almost like, not I've made it, but like, oh, I've done what I wanted to do out of football, and that's where it got more difficult after that. But yeah, it was pretty incredible.
Would you say that was all like? Would you say that you felt as though that you almost peaked, like you achieved what you set out to, maybe?
Yeah, I think so to an extent. I think it was almost like surreal for it to be happening. That's like, oh, you've actually done this that you dreamed about since you were 5 years old. Where now? And I think the biggest thing that I really struggled with, which again is maybe different from others, was that sort of imposter syndrome of just never feeling like a first team player. You know, even at that time I was on the bench every week. I played pre-season games against Everton, Preston. I was in all the first team meetings and stuff, but I just never ever felt part of it, or that I was going to be there permanently, which I think for some boys, they probably should think like that. You know, they'd be better being grounded and brought down to earth a bit, that you've not made it yet. But for me, I think I just didn't quite allow myself that bit of, like, you're here on merit. There's a reason you're playing in these games and stuff, that just never fully sunk in.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with you on that. Like, I've seen it before. Like, I think it does happen at clubs where when you're a youth player and you move into the first team, you do feel that imposter syndrome, because I remember boys at Dundee United when I was there, youth players, and they were never sure if they were training with the first team that day. They were never really sure if they were, to go in the meetings. They were never really.
It's awkward.
And it's just that, because they don't want to be embarrassed, because you know what it's like with first team boys shooting them down. What the hell are you doing in here?
You'll get the big time shouts straight away. And I think it's probably a broader issue, but I think that's where management comes into it. Even now, with having staff, it's realising that maybe it's a manager at that point should have seen with me, he's not big-headed, let's make him feel like he does belong here, whereas other boys maybe need something different, rather than just a one-size-fits-all approach.
Because you know for sure that there'll be some boys who will be in that meeting every single day, who will back themselves no matter what. 100%. And it's just the type of person you are. I think you get some who need a bit more of that reassurance. You get some who are just
they've naturally got that there. That they fully believe in themselves. And I think it probably does favours in life, in football, to sometimes not care as much what people think. That you'll have played with boys as well, that they're not really that bothered what anyone says about them, and a lot of the times that probably does them a lot of favours for how they work.
For sure, 100%. I think it's interesting that you touched on the kind of management side of it, because in a way, I don't feel as though, like, maybe some football clubs, the bigger football clubs you get, they are managed. There's loads of different people in different positions and different structures, but sometimes they're still a wee bit old-fashioned football clubs. Like, some of the stuff that goes on in dressing rooms and the way that things are handled would never be allowed in other professions. But that, like, you've kind of always known that. But I think just there's probably room, especially because some managers are maybe ex-players and stuff. Like, they're just there because they were an ex-player.
It's the same thing. It's a natural progression. They hire them. I always remember, I was on holiday with my girlfriend's stepdad, who's very, very successful businessman and stuff, multiple businesses, and we were speaking about it, and he kind of said, you would never ever get away with being a football manager in any other line of work in the world. The way they speak to people, the way they treat people, the lack of management. And I think sometimes it's one of these things that it's just accepted because it is the way it is, and it's the way it's always been, which is fine to an extent, but then it just makes you think, what would happen if someone just ripped up the rule book and did something totally different? I think probably doesn't help as well when clubs have maybe tried to be a bit different and managers have failed because the culture is not quite there. That almost confirms that belief that, oh no, we have to do it this way. We tried to bring in someone different and it doesn't quite work out, so that means we should just stick to doing it the way we've always done it, where it might have been other things in the infrastructure that was wrong that would have allowed that manager to succeed.
But albeit I'm talking bad about managers, but there are some very good ones as well. You know what I mean? You get good and bad ones.
It's the same as anything. You get, like, the vast majority of sort of coaches, managers I worked with throughout were excellent and taught me a lot of kind of football side of things, but even like principles I'd now kind of use in business, that definitely you get a lot of good ones.
Well, that's what I'm going to touch on, mate. In terms of lessons from football, I personally believe that there are so many, if you allow yourself to listen and educate yourself, but when you're playing football in a football club, in particular, yourself and I, you're at bigger academies, so you get more support, you get more education. There's more information. There's different coaches helping you out. But I think there's a ton of lessons that can be transferred and skills that can be transferred from being a football player into other aspects, like obviously business. But what would you say are some of the lessons that you've really held on to from being a football player and brought forward with you in life now?
I think 100% there is loads that you can kind of take with you. Hard work is an obvious one that I think applies in any area of life, but it's still true. If I've read the book, I don't know if you read it, it's Legacy, about the All Blacks, and the sort of sweep the sheds mantra of, being a young boy, cleaning boots, doing that sort of stuff. Even now, stupid things that I won't walk past equipment in the gym that's not put away, just wee things like that to stay in mind. But I think probably football wise, just how important small things are, if the seemingly insignificant, boring stuff that just when you piece it all together, that's what makes the biggest differences. I think that's a massive one to take. And then I just think with football, it's probably one of the tougher environments to be in terms of it swings so much from week to week. Your result on a Saturday, Monday, whenever you play, can dictate the rest of your week. It dictates the atmosphere around the training ground, how a manager speaks to you, how he views you, how boys interact with each other. And I think that prepares you quite well for stuff that swings quite violently in life. Like, even, it's a stupid analogy, but I remember speaking to my dad when we got locked down because of COVID. I sort of used the example that it's almost like a tough away game on a horrible pitch, that it's not going to be pretty, but it's kind of getting through it, and you maybe win, you maybe make sure you don't get beat, so that the following week when you go home and the gym reopens, it's like, we can kick on now. So I think there is a lot to be taken from that into whatever other walk of life you use it for. It's
really interesting. It's almost as if the kind of setbacks and the roller coaster you have as a football player conditions you, and you probably don't get the same extremes in business and stuff. You're more in control of things, whereas football, you're not in control of many things. It's team selection, results, that sort of thing. You can only do so much. So I suppose it does really condition you.
I think so. Well, it
gives you that resilience.
Probably makes it seem easier in a lot of ways, that even when things in business are uncontrollable, it's still more controllable than it was when you were playing football. So it seems a lot easier on the surface of it, at least, because it's like, well, when I had played football, I had to deal with much worse than this. The swings were much greater, whereas now it's just wee things that are going all over the place.
So what kind of things would you say were the worst things, like, that you had to deal with as a football player?
I think for me, that the thing I struggled with the most was probably the security in terms of contracts, especially when I left Hearts. So if you're signing year contracts places, and it's like, well, it's 6 months till I'm out of contract, so by the time you establish yourself, get comfy, it's like, oh God, I've only got 6 months to try and kind of earn another contract. And I think the other thing that I always struggled with was that, I wouldn't change it because I think it's right, but that there is no direct correlation between your output and what you kind of get from it. That it's not like, if I work harder than them, if I eat better than them, if I live my life better than them, I'm going to get in the team. It's injuries, it's luck, it's suspensions, it's managers having their favourites. And I think the other thing I always kind of found difficult was changes in management and stuff, that you'd be a real favourite under one coach, it all looks rosy, he leaves, and within 3 months it's like, oh, it's all changed, but then someone new comes in and it changes again. And I think you'll know yourself, football, especially it seems Scottish football, can be so political and stuff, and there's a lot more to it than meets the eye than maybe just a simple choice between player to player. But that said, I wouldn't kind of change any of it. I don't think any of that is why I'm not a footballer or anything. It's just things that I think for other boys that would help if it was slightly different.
I mean, I think what you said there, that there's a massive amount of uncertainty in Scottish football, I think, for Scottish players, in terms of, I would say the majority of contracts in Scotland are probably 1 year contracts.
I think it'd probably be less than 3-4% of contracts are over 2 years. I think the vast majority will be in that sort of range. And I think you'll have seen it, but there's this sort of misunderstanding about money in Scottish football and stuff as well, that it's not like it's a 2 year contract on money that you can survive if you don't get a contract somewhere else. It suddenly becomes quite a big issue, especially as you have kids, families, houses and whatnot.
It's so uncertain. I think that's definitely one of the biggest challenges that football players deal with. It puts so much stress and pressure. Like even I know guys that are late 20s. They've been playing football for 10 years, and I remember speaking to one boy at Dundee United, and his contract was coming up, and he was like, mate, like I don't even know, like, so this is like say January, February time, his contract's up in the summer, guys like 28, 29, and he's saying, I don't know if I will still be playing football next season. Like I don't actually know. I don't know if someone will sign me. I hope they will. And what kind of job at 28, 29 gives you? But that's just the risk with football. But
and of course, like,
but the rewards are
the rewards can be high.
In Scotland,
financially, definitely not. I think obviously you get the good times of you get to be a footballer for a living,
and it is good. It is a good life. It's a good life when you're playing full time.
Financial rewards aren't always great.
No,
I actually, funnily, just saying that, one of the things I struggled with the most, that is probably what most people love about it, was the lifestyle of. There was just sometimes so little to do that you finish training, and it's like, especially at Hearts, we worked quite hard. You know, we were regular sort of double, triple sessions. We'd go in the indoor astro after training, whatever. But when I went to Hamilton, it was kind of like every day you're done at 12:30, 1 o'clock, and I was a bit kind of lost. Like, what do I do? I go home and watch TV. That's it. You can see very quickly how other probably not great habits form amongst young footballers and stuff with that sort of lifestyle.
100%, mate. That's one of the things I struggled with massively, like to the point where I used to get a bit kind of down almost, because I'd have so much time in the evenings and I didn't have anything to do. So that was one of the reasons. So I started an open uni degree. That was one of the reasons I started that, just to kind of try and fill my time.
To fill the time.
Try and fill my time with something. And I think a lot of boys probably resonate with that are more starting to do other things as well, which I think's important. But listen, I did enjoy my time as a football player, and I'm sure you did as well.
100%.
So although there are like negative parts of it, there are
so many good. But you were the same. Like, even beyond anything football related, like the places in the world I've been for a 23-year-old through football, the people I've met, you know, players, coaches, staff, and stuff that I would still keep in touch with to this day. It's definitely more good than bad. 100%.
Yeah. I mean, I think the connections you make, the people you meet, the places you go and see, they're like I'll never forget those memories from a player. Like when I was obviously growing up, you know, you travel the world. You travelled the world with Scotland, and it is incredible. But so tell me specifically, what do you think were the really good bits about being a professional footballer, full-time professional footballer? What bits did you really like? What bits did you get a lot from?
For me, weirdly, and it probably translates into a lot of what I've gone on to do, I really liked the day-to-day bit of it, of, you know, going into the gym before training, doing your sort of prehab stuff, training, and just like almost living the life of a footballer, you know, from when I was 14, 15, seeing the boys full-time, thinking, oh, that's what I want to do. I want to go into the indoor astro after training and hit free kicks and practice stuff. I really liked that part of it. And then obviously just the game day, especially the bigger kind of occasions, being a Hearts fan, playing against Hibs, Celtic, Rangers, getting to go away with Scotland, being involved in match day squads for the first team and stuff, it does feel good, and it sort of fills you with confidence and stuff.
And it's not every young person's dream, but a lot of young footballers, that is their dream, to play in a first team, to be a first team player.
Totally. Like, even like beyond just footballers, like if you asked, I assume it's the same now, but if you asked a classroom of 12-year-old kids how many of them wanted to be a footballer, you'd get so many, and then you are kind of that one that gets to do it. You see how many have fell along the way before you get to that point, and it does feel pretty good to be the one that's kind of made it to that tipping point.
So you played football with Hearts, you then joined a few other clubs, and then so how many years did you continue to play after leaving Hearts? What age were you when you left Hearts?
So I was 18, I think, when I left Hearts. Joined Hamilton on a year's contract, played there for a year. When I got released there, I always kind of quantify this story with I wouldn't have gone on to be a footballer, but I had a few sort of options of trials, places, maybe 1 year deals, different places. But at that point, I had a year of under 20s, which was the age group left, and I kind of knew I was going to go somewhere, do the same thing again, be on a year's contract, be in that same position a year down the line, and I didn't kind of see a way out of that where I became a first team player and kind of kicked on. When I was at Hamilton, I was on loan at Berwick, which wasn't my favourite experience in the world, but it did open my eyes to life outside of full-time football. Same as you, it's all I'd ever known. And I was speaking to these guys at Berwick who with the greatest respect in the world, you know, that was League Two at the time.
Yeah.
I had been on the bench for Hamilton in the Premiership. I'd played for Hearts in the Premiership. Speaking to them, you know, they were earning more money and stuff than I was earning being a full-time footballer at like an SPL club. And I was like, oh, right, okay. Spoke to some of them, and actually their jobs weren't as bad as I'd always imagined working in the real world would be. You know, it wasn't even necessarily what I ended up going into. It was like normal jobs. I was like, oh, that sounds all right. It sounds a bit more secure. So I kind of made the decision at that point not to pursue anything full-time for that last year at 20s, look into part-time football. I kind of, a bit of both, with getting sidetracked with doing my personal training qualification. At that point, I probably dropped lower initially than I should have, but probably without realising it at Hamilton, probably even before that,
in terms of the club you went to?
Yeah, right. So even like looking back now, I didn't realise it at the time, but from maybe January when I was at Hearts, right through my time at Hamilton, through my time at Berwick, so we're talking 18 months, I probably fell out of love with football a lot without fully ever appreciating it on the surface. And it was only when in that summer I got released off Hamilton, I went to train with Selkirk, who were in the Lowland League, to keep fit, that it was the first time in ages I've actually thought, wow, I really, really enjoy this. It's why I started playing football and stuff. And I could see that even at that early stage doing the qualification, that the personal training thing could be for me. And I just kind of ended up signing there. Looking back, I could have maybe went to a League One, League Two club part-time, but I don't regret it looking back on that kind of decision. But I think that did kill my football career a bit earlier, because once you go down that low, it's certainly not impossible, but it's tougher to then come back up.
So was that Kelty?
No, that was Selkirk first. So after Hamilton, I went straight to Selkirk, and then...
How long did you spend there?
Just a year.
1 year.
So I played the season there, joined Gala in the summer, who were the same sort of Lowland League, a lot better run and stuff. Again, just for enjoyment more than... Don't get me wrong, like, I think the Lowland League's probably... It's becoming more common knowledge now. It's a lot better financially than people think. You know, it's a nice bit of pocket money and stuff, especially if you're working. But again, purely sort of enjoyment, a good group of boys and stuff. Then when I went to Gala... Kelty tried to sign me. Barry Ferguson was sort of the manager, and although Kelty at that time were in the Lowland League, it definitely felt a step up to being a lot closer to full-time football than anything I'd experienced previously part-time, which shows probably in the success.
And were you still thinking about full-time football at this stage?
No. So when I kind of came away from Hamilton and stuff, I always said it to people, family, friends, as, oh, no, it's just a step back to then jump back into full-time football at some point. I'm still young, but pretty quickly I realised that I didn't miss it anywhere near as much as I thought I would.
So see, on that, do you think you told, like, maybe friends, family, people around you that story, but in your head you had a different story, you had a different idea?
Totally. I think one of the scariest things I've done in my whole life, and it seems so ridiculous now looking back on it, is to tell people I was giving up football, both when I stopped playing full-time and then last year, whenever it was, when I left Kelty and gave up completely. I found that genuinely one of the hardest things I've done, to tell my mum and dad that. When I look at it, it's like so ridiculous that that becomes such a big deal, but I think you... But the thing is, it is a big... Totally, you can't overlook it. It is a big deal because it's been a massive part of your life. I think you almost like link it to your identity, that when you're 17, 18, it's like, I am a footballer. That you say that before
everyone's known Sean
else.
McCarthy
That's it.
as the footballer.
I think that's the thing of like common culture with people. It's like you failed because you're not a footballer, even though they don't know the ins and outs. You know, actually, I'm much happier, much healthier than I've ever been. It's the best decision I've made. I've gone on to have a lot more success than I would have doing that. They just see it as, oh, you're not a footballer anymore, and it's like you failed because of that. No, I think it's really interesting. It probably that's one of the reasons I think a lot of boys. I've chatted to you when I saw you last up at your gym, but a lot of the time, it's the reason boys or players don't stop playing football is because of that identity thing, and they can't imagine themselves doing. They can't imagine themselves doing anything different at all, and they can't imagine telling anyone that they want to, or they can't imagine telling anyone that they're trying to do something different. It's definitely a really difficult one, but I think, you know, there'll be probably some players listening to this who will probably resonate with some of the things we're saying. I think a lot. You'll have realised it since you stopped playing and stuff as well, is that the amount of players that tell you they feel similarly. Like when I stopped playing, and people asked about it, and we got down to kind of the nitty gritty of, I think it's that thing when you first stop playing. I certainly just used the excuse, oh, it's work, I'm opening a gym. Whereas when you actually speak about it, it's like, nah, I'm not enjoying it that much. It's not fulfilling me. It's not making me a happier, healthier person. When you get down to that, I think a lot more players than you'd think feel that way. And I don't think that always means they should give it up as well, but it's just a conversation to be had that's like, well, why is it you kind of feel that way? Does that mean you need to change something? Does it mean you should stop playing, or is there something else at play?
And I think it's totally fine to have that conversation. Like, have that conversation, but have it with someone that's close to you, you know, someone in your kind of inner circle.
I think it's that thing, it sounds like a lack of commitment or something, that you're worried people would judge you, that your head's not in it and stuff if you did that. Whereas a lot of the time, for a lot of boys, I actually think they probably don't want to give up playing. They just need to get that out and have that conversation to kind of clear their head and get everything out in the open. Yeah,
because one of the things, so obviously I stopped playing football as well, you know, in the last kind of 4 or 5 months. And when I finally made the decision, went and told the manager, like, a few people were saying, oh, what were your friends and family thinking? I was like, my friends and family have known for a long time that I wasn't really happy playing football. So it was no, they were just like, all right, okay, well, eventually, like, well done, you finally kind of, you felt like put yourself first and made the decision. So I think it was important for me to tell people that are close to me, because those are kind of who I trust, and I can see why players wouldn't want to tell a football club or, you know, other players, because there is that. You don't want anyone to, you know, judge you in terms of playing and stuff like that. So it's fine to just tell the close circle, but definitely have the conversation, 100%. But I think going back to something that you said earlier, you know, one of the other things, albeit players struggle with the identity thing about when they leave football, but also the financial thing. You know, for me, I took a financial hit when I stopped playing football, but I think that also would stop a lot of players, you know, trying something different, is the worry of, you know, okay, I've lost this X amount of money, like, I can't afford to do that. But I think the one thing that you did, obviously, and I did as well, in the back burner, we were working away on other things that, you know, you knew could give you an income, like your personal training, coaching, all that sort of thing. So rather than just, you know, walk in tomorrow and say, by the way, I'm chucking this, have some
I think we spoke about that last time, is that, like, it's someone's decision whether they keep playing football, anything in life, what they do. But I certainly wouldn't have done it without a backup plan. You know, I knew that money at that point that I was earning from Kelty, as nice as it was just pocket money. It was something extra. It wasn't like I was kind of putting my family, my house, my car at risk. Because of that, it was like, well, it's just money that I don't need for the stress it sort of gives me. And I think, you know, a lot of players as well, they not overestimate what they earn, but I think especially at part-time football, when you add up travelling, when you add up games, when you add up all that stuff.
Time as well, because it's as low as part-time.
It's a lot of time. I think if you actually worked out the hourly rate of being a part-time footballer, even for people that are on decent money, it suddenly comes down a lot when you compare it to a normal job. And I think it is a conversation that could be had more within football, is finances, because I think there's this thing, if, you know, as soon as money gets brought up, boys get banded as big time, whatever, and it's like 100%. There is a lot that are in it for the money that shouldn't be, but also I think there needs to be this realisation that money does become an issue at a certain point. You know, you can't necessarily live off what you're earning as a young boy throughout your full career, and you need to kind of have that think of, is that what I want in life, to be able to do that? Especially, you'll see that even more, but part-time football is probably becoming a lot more attractive for that reason, is that boys can earn decent money playing football, but they can also go and have a job and a career elsewhere as well. Yeah, definitely. So you stopped playing football, and I picked up an interesting quote from, I can't remember where it came from, so I can't remember the source. Obviously, no idea what's coming here.
You are the source. It was in a paper. It said it would be dishonest to myself and to Kelty to keep playing in my head isn't fully in it.
I do remember that
true?
Now. Yeah, that's 100% true. I remember actually saying that to Barry Ferguson at the time as well. Any sort of success I had in football was from being focused, hardworking, committed, all that stuff. And I think as soon as I lost that was any sort of advantage I had gone. That was kind of me. You know, I wasn't one of these players that was good enough to make a big difference if my head wasn't in it. And I think at that point I could have easily strung football out for another 6 months, a year. You know, I didn't despise it. I didn't hate it. I had good times with it, but I wasn't 100% in it. And I thought, I'm leading them up the garden path here, and I'm kidding myself on that this isn't what's working for me at the minute.
Yeah. No, I think that's really honest of you, and it's a really good way to approach a conversation with a manager. I know some players that will probably use that now.
steal that as their own.
No, because it's true. I mean, and the reason I agree with it a lot is because I did feel similar, you know, in my last kind of 6 months of playing. I was like, you know, my head isn't fully here. I'm not 100%. In terms of being a professional, I was still doing everything correct.
That's the thing. I think like,
it was almost like the extra bits that I was doing to give myself the edge. I stopped in those, and then I was like, I'm not.
And I think it doesn't even need to be as big as that. You know, for me, if you looked at it on the surface, my last 6 months of playing, I still came in early to stretch. I still ate the right things. I still did all that stuff, but it was just that wee bit mentally that wasn't fully there, that just wasn't.
So it's the passion and the love. The Friday night,
I'm not thinking about the game. On a Saturday when the weather's rubbish, I'm like, I can't really be bothered with this. And that's the things that go, rather than it's not like you sort of toss the dummy out and start behaving badly and stuff. It's just that last little bit of extra you've got that's kind of got you to where you are, just goes a little bit.
Yeah. And I was going to ask you, do you think there is like support for football players, young football players in particular, you know, growing up between the ages of maybe 18 to 24? Do you think there's enough support there for, you know, kind of what we're talking about, really?
I think it's hard, because I think it's easy to say there's not, and I think in a lot of ways there isn't, but I also don't think it's an easy thing to fix. You know, places like the PFA and stuff, they helped fund some of my personal training course in the very first place, and I don't doubt for a second that if I reached out to any of them, they'd help me. I think when I'd left Hearts Hamilton, if I'd reached out to coaches, they certainly wouldn't have ignored me and left me to it. But I just think there is probably a lack of conversation about it, and you know what it looks like after, how you're actually feeling with it, and just getting you prepared for hardship.
Reality. Just the reality. Because I think for me, I think it's maybe something more that the clubs could do. Yeah. Like, you know, with their young players, obviously they do, but I think it's a tick the box thing. They give them courses to do in education, but none of the players want to be there. None of them have chosen to do it.
And it's like, even the person that's taking you, the tutor at the time, can tell, you know, these boys don't want to be here. Their head's elsewhere. I'm getting
and then she's just, or he or she's taking a box by turning up and just
they're getting given a rubbish time on a Thursday when you've done a double session. You don't want to do it.
Yeah.
I always remember when I was at Kelty, we had someone there. I think he must have been like 18 years as a full-time footballer. Kelty was his first part-time gig, and he was a switched-on smart guy. I think he'll go on and either run a business, be a coach, whatever. And I remember him coming into the car and saying, I don't know how to write a CV. And I can laugh about it and stuff, but it's actually quite a serious thing that, you know, he's 33, 34 years old, doesn't know how to properly write a CV. And I'm like, wow, like that's incredible that you've been able to have this success. You're not silly, you're not a daft person, but you've just never ever been taught how to do that stuff. That I even think now, in the 3-4 years since I've stopped playing professionally, how much I've picked up that my mates that are still playing professionally, it's another 4 years of stuff they've not picked up. And I think there's a bit of, you can't prepare them for everything, you know. There's certain realities that you can't, but I think there's some stuff you can do to say at least you've got half a chance here of kind of going back to normality and going to work in a normal job or whatever.
Definitely, mate, because I know boys that left Celtic when they're 20, 21, 22, and it took them 3-4 years to actually eventually not even, you know, become well knowledged or educated in a certain field, but to actually go, right, okay, maybe I'm going to actually start doing that.
What they want to do.
Just going to be floating around for maybe a couple of years. But I do also think, I know what it's like. You know what it's like with young boys. They don't want to listen to anyone that's telling them they're not going to be a football player. So
I think it's a bit of a battle. You feel like you're losing that edge of, I don't want to think about that because that's not going to be me.
That's not me.
So it is,
because that's how I felt. 100%.
I think it's an impossible situation to be in, you know, because I think I was, compared to a lot of boys I played with, pretty level-headed, switched on, but you still don't think it's ever going to be you that needs to go and get a real job that's not going to be a footballer. And I think there's probably a bit of a naivety with a lot of boys that when they've been, especially as you and I were at a bigger club, a bigger academy, about where their level is, when they fall, that's not always quite as high as they think. You know, I think there's this thing, I've came from Hearts, Hibs, Celtic, Rangers, Aberdeen, my landing spot is X and Y, whereas your landing spot's probably a bit lower than that.
Yeah.
And I think that's a bit of a shock for a lot of boys to take. You know I found that difficult when I was leaving Hearts. That's kind of like, well, you know, I've played 6-7 first team games as a 17-year-old. I've played for Scotland. I've done this. Why can I not find a club? Like, why is this a struggle? There should be loads of clubs willing to kind of take a chance on me, and it's not always the case from finances, all that kind of stuff as well. That means it's more difficult than boys think.
Yeah, definitely. But I do think as well, sometimes the best thing that a player can do is leave that, you know, the club they've been at for a while, drop down a few levels, and through hard work, through, you know, still doing everything they can, there's still opportunities and very good opportunities to progress. Like as a football player, just because you've left and you've joined a League One team, a League Two team, a Championship team at between the ages of 18 to 20, let's say 26, something like that. There's no reason why you can't progress.
I even think now, you know, and I'm not saying for 1 second the new management team would have wanted me, I would have played, but I'd kind of done that. I've dropped from Hamilton in the SPL to Selkirk in the lower half of the Lowland League. If I'd stayed at Kelty, you know, they're now League Two, looking like they'll probably get promoted to League One. Suddenly you've went full circle that at 24 I'm a League One player again, having dropped all the way to the Lowland League, and then you have 6 good months, a Championship team takes a chance on you, and before you know it, you're right back to where you started. So I think 100% there's a lot of benefits to going out and opening your eyes to what different things are, you know, how it works at different clubs, and realising how spoilt you've probably been. So if and when you do get back there, you appreciate it a lot more because you've had that other experience. Yeah,
100%. And just to touch on in terms of like what practical things maybe players could do, you know, in that 18 to 24, it's probably just what we've touched on is be aware that there are other opportunities, there are other things you can do in life, and just because you've always been a footballer, don't let that stop you from trying something out that you maybe are interested in and enjoy doing. And I think that's the first step in, you know, looking after yourself, because you want to look after yourself as a person as well.
Totally.
And being proactive through 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, and maybe doing a personal training course on the side, maybe starting up a little business on the side. I know one player who's got a side business as an estate agent. Like there's loads of players doing little things, and I think it's becoming more
more common.
It's becoming more common. It really is, and I think players should be proactive and look after themselves, because the clubs aren't always going to be there.
I think, and it is important, because I hate when I tell this story. Sometimes it paints football in a bad light. That's like, no, there's, as we spoke about, there's loads of amazing things, and you know, you'd go and do it all again. But I think the other benefit to having something that you do, whether it's a course, whether it's a side business, whether it's even just learning, as much as that's good because you're sort of future proofing yourself if anything happens, I think it also takes your mind off football a little bit, which stops that thing we were saying, you become almost obsessive over it to the point that it's not healthy, that it is a distraction. It's something that takes your mind away from thinking about training games 2-3 nights a week, and you've got more to your personality and what you do, rather than just solely focused on one thing. You know, even now it's not easy for me, but I always try and have something on the go outside of directly being a gym owner that I have, so that it kind of distracts me. It takes my mind off it a bit, and it allows you to develop as a full person rather than just one area of your life all the time. Yeah,
100%. And I think if you don't, it's easy to just be like 24/7 about the business, because it's you have to have the balance.
That's the thing. I think it's the exact same with football. There's so many similarities that you do have to be obsessive over it.
Yeah,
and that is a big advantage, but not to the point that it neglects everything else in your life. That it's finding that balance where. I always think with like balance, when people talk about work-life balance and stuff, it's never going to be that you have a perfect week, but I think you'll have 4 weeks where it's skewed heavily towards work, but then you'll go away for 10 days in the summer where it's heavily skewed towards personal relationships, and it balances out almost over the course of a year rather than just day to day, week to week and stuff.
Definitely. Okay, so go back to the gym. I'm going to go back to the gym, and I want you to give me your elevator pitch for. Did I even recognise the name? Elevate 98.
I don't know. Elevate 98.
It's called Elevate 98, and it's in Edinburgh. It's in the heart of the city centre, pretty much, isn't it?
Yeah, pretty much 5 minutes from town.
Have you prepped an elevator pitch?
No, you've put me on the spot with this.
Go on, give it your best shot.
Basically, the reason the gym came about was being a one-to-one personal trainer for years. what I found happened was people did 1, 2, 3 sessions with me a week, and they absolutely loved it, really enjoyed it, or at least they told me they did. And the problem was when they tried to go to the gym themselves. It was then the sessions in between. Personal training can also be expensive to maintain. If you've got a good PT, they're suddenly really full. You know, when I was finishing up one-to-one PT before I opened the gym, I was 60 sessions a week. So if someone missed a slot because of work, it was like, you've got no chance of getting anything good. So we kind of created a gym where we train 4 people at one time, so that it gives you a lot more flexibility with price and time-wise. So it means you can kind of come in a lot more often at a much cheaper price, but because there's 4 people, you still get that sort of individual attention to detail, and the gym's set out in that way. So we don't do any kind of open gym where people come in and just use the equipment themselves. We train them in small groups, working on the more technical side, strength training, helping them with postural corrections, core work, whatever. And then we have classes on top of that that are almost top-ups for cardio, for glutes, for chest and arms, for stretching. And it means they get kind of the full package. I just wanted to take a lot of what I learned that was good about football, you know, feeling like an athlete, feeling like I can go and jump, push stuff, move quick. I think loads of people do that when they're younger, lose it as they get older, and never fully get it back. You know, we've got 40, 50-year-old men, women that love being part of a team, that almost get like that banter they had from sport back within the gym. And it's kind of a home away from home rather than necessarily the exercise bit of it. It's kind of creating a place where they feel safe, they feel like they can be themselves, and they get the physical results with it.
Sold.
Is it sold? A few memberships off the back of that, hopefully.
There we go. No, honestly though, when I came down the other week, I thought the gym was it's a really lovely gym, and I think the kind of model that you do is quite unique.
I think I always say, you know, I didn't design that model. I studied a lot of gyms in America, London and stuff. I think here it is relatively unique. You know, there is a couple that do it and do it well, but it's pretty new. And I think one of the biggest things I've had throughout life that you need is luck.
Yeah.
I think this model works particularly well off the back of COVID, at a time where people have had a lack of social interaction.
Yeah.
They've maybe realised they don't have that many hobbies and stuff. They don't get to communicate with people that often that aren't in their immediate friends and family circle. And I think it's nice to have that at a time like this, which is obviously played into our hands as well.
Yeah, and I think it's really cool, mate, like to be, I think a lot of people are only really involved in team sports, like as an actual participant, up until the age of maybe 30, 35. So to be 40, 50, 60, whatever age it is, and still be able to feel part of a team, it's probably cool. Something that people don't even realise that they need.
Hit the nail on the head is that, like, a lot, that's not why people sign up to our gym. You know, they sign up to get a physical result or a mental result, and it's only when they've done it that they realise they actually missed that part of their life. You know, even stupid stuff that you might be approaching that age. I know, like, speaking to my dad and older friends, I'm getting to that stage of life where you don't actually get to see friends and stuff that much. You know, everyone's busy with work, stuff's going on, and I think having somewhere like the gym where a lot of our members have almost created friendships there, that you actually see those people quite a lot. If you're in the gym 2, 3, 4 days a week, it's nice to have that sort of social atmosphere. We've got our social night on Saturday, and COVID dependent, we'll have 40, 50, 60 people there, and that's pretty cool to create something like that goes beyond just the 4 walls of the gym, where we can give people a lot of that feeling that I've experienced in football changing rooms, in sport teams and stuff.
No, it's special. It is special because I think a lot, like commercial gyms, I feel it myself as well. You go in by yourself, you work by yourself, you go home by yourself. So to create that team environment is pretty cool, and it's healthy relationships. You know what I mean? Everyone's there with the same intention. They want to get fitter. They want to look after themselves.
I wish we changed it sometimes, because I'm sure we'd make more money and stuff. But for us, because we don't have anyone coming in that's just using the gym, it means everyone's almost admitting they need help. You know, they're coming to us because they need help, whether it's technique, programming, confidence. So it puts everyone in the same boat and levels that playing field a bit, rather than someone being in the gym who's intimidating loads of other people, and suddenly it kills that dynamic we've got. Yeah.
Okay, I've got another bit from another paper that I did my research on.
Plenty of research there.
Loads of research, mate. £35,000 entire life saving spent on the gym. Yeah. Tell me about that.
I actually think that's slightly misquoted. I think.
Is it?
ever so slightly less than that was
it was only half your life savings.
No, I think I didn't even have that much. So ever so slightly less than that was my life savings, and then there was a bit of a family loan involved as well. I think if I looked back on it and thought about it, it was crazy at the time. It's still crazy now, but I always thought, I could never, when I came out of football, have seen myself working for somebody all my life. And I just thought, there's some time I need to take the risk and do this. And I'm quite a cautious person when it comes to everything in life, but especially money. I'm pretty sensible. And I get that from my mum. My dad's terrible with money, but I get that from my mum. And she kind of said to me when we were speaking about it, she's like, well, if there's anyone I'd back to do it, it would be you. And that was all I needed to think. Do you know what is the very worst that happens? I'm 24, 25, and I need to start again. I'm sure loads of people have to do that. I wouldn't be the first, and touch wood, that's not happened yet.
So you spent every penny
on
the gym.
I've spent a lot more than that now as well. It's added up over the course of the year, but it's worked out so far. Yeah,
and I think it just shows you, like as you said there, it's again this mindset that you have. You don't really see the kind of negatives. They're not really that. Obviously, you do. You look at them and analyze them, but they're not enough to outweigh, taking a little risk, putting yourself in a little bit of an uncomfortable situation. Because, as you said, the worst thing that can happen is you do live that life savings, but you're still alive, you're still healthy. You build again, you start again.
I think that kind of. It sounds arrogant when you say it out loud, and I would never really, say it out loud in day-to-day conversation. But I've always just had the mindset that I genuinely believe you could throw anything at me and I'd find my way out of it somehow. That I think if you pulled the plug on everything tomorrow, I wouldn't fold, I wouldn't collapse. I'd find a way to make something work, whether that was a totally different career, whether it was a new gym, whether it was rebuilding the gym from the ground up. And I almost see it as, I'm a bit weird sometimes, but as a bit of a challenge. That's like, well, you read these books on mindset, you listen to podcasts about improving your mindset and stuff. It's like, go and prove it. When something tough happens, go and actually show that I'm not just doing this for the sake of it. I have actually got a strong mindset. I do back myself. I do the work to make sure that kind of investment in myself is paying off. And you'll have seen loads of them on social media and stuff, but I think it is true that maybe not that much money, but a lot of people would go and waste X amount of money on totally frivolous things, clothes, cars, whatever it is. And it's like, well, that's a way to spend your money that you won't regret. And I always say, even if someone pulled the plug on me tomorrow, as much as I think I would make something work, no one can kind of take the last year we've had away from us of having a full gym, having an atmosphere that's bouncing, having people invest their time, money, effort into us and kind of believing in us. And that's worth the investment within itself before you get to obviously, hopefully, making that back and stuff.
Yeah, definitely. Again, I think it's like testament to your kind of mindset. You've always had that, willingness not to be put off by something because it's a little bit fearful. And I think that's why, you've been very successful in what you've done so far. And I think that will continue, mate. Just from speaking to you, I think that's a sign of, what the way you're talking, the things you're doing is like putting all the things that you maybe listened to or read from these books that kind of talk about that kind of positive mindset stuff and kind of motivation, inspirational stuff. And I think it is quite inspiring what you've done at 23. And I think it can give a lot of, young people that are not footballers or athletes, but anyone who's maybe wanting to start up a business or they are footballers or business owners, to show like what it takes in terms of how much you have to be hands-on, how much you have to be willing to do, sacrifice time, effort, energy, and just keep going and keep going and keep going and persevering and plugging away.
100%. And I think so much of that stuff is relatable no matter what you do, whether you work in a 9-to-5 job, whether you're a footballer, whether you're a business owner. I think we maybe spoke about it last time, but the biggest thing as well is it's being that relentless, of having that consistency. I think anyone can do these things. Anyone can go and read a book, they can go and listen to a podcast, they can have a day or two where they work their backsides off. But I think it's the people that just chip away at it day after day after day that, I've been fortunate that I've put myself in a position where I can gain access to people within the fitness industry, even within football, who've had a lot of success. And the biggest thing, speaking to them, there's no secret to it, it's just that they've consistently done it day after day, whatever that is, whether it's their prehab and stretching in sport, whether it's their marketing and catch-ups in business, whether it's learning new sort of training techniques in the gym, they've just sort of consistently worked at it, and it almost catches up with you, that you don't feel like you've hit success, or that it's like a whoa moment. It's just like the wee bits just constantly add up, and you see, oh, actually we've come quite far here in quite a short space of time.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point. Like, it's the consistency, and I think the consistency is, it's a total delayed gratification. Like, the things you're doing right now every single day, you might not actually see the returns for that in a year or 2 years time. You have no idea what it looks like, but you have the drive to keep going because you believe in what you're doing, kind of thing.
Oh, and I think that's where, you know, when we had the conversation about footballers and stuff, I think having your end goal and your why in sight, and it being powerful enough to keep you going is really, really important with that. But I think it's almost as well, like, it is that lagging measure of success that I actually think any sort of perceived success we're having just now is because of the 5 a.m. starts I did as a one-to-one PT that built up a reputation
3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah, and I think now the stuff I'm doing will bear fruit, hopefully, in 2-3 years, that the sort of marketing efforts, the branding we're doing, and that's a long time for a lot of people to wait. You know, a lot of people want kind of success instantly, and I certainly don't say that to make it sound easy. You know, there's times I just think I want to do something and get a reward for it straight away. Yeah. But it's just keeping in mind that it doesn't always work like that, that you do need to play that long game, especially if you are younger and you've got more time on your side to do that. Do
you ever question what you're doing?
Yeah, I don't. No, it's all right. My watch is buzzing away. I'm wondering what's going on.
Do we have enough?
We're all good. We're all good.
Good. I thought you were going to take a rain check.
I do question, but, you know, they're less and less recently. So when I was a one-to-one PT, once every 4 months, I'd think I could easily jack this, go and work in an office 9 to 5 and do it. When I first started the business, I was like, I could go back to being a one-to-one PT, earning money without having any of this hassle. Yeah. You get a bit of success, and then something new comes along. I think you've got like your ceiling, and then you push past that ceiling. It's a struggle. You get comfy at your new ceiling, then you push past it, and it's just that constant thing. And I think that'll keep happening. So there's undoubtedly times I think, is all this work I'm doing really necessary? You know, I think, would I have the same success if I didn't do all these things? But it's almost that case of, it's working for me just now, so why change it? I don't want to take the risk that I slow down and everything else slows down. It's like, it's working for me. As we spoke about earlier, most importantly, I enjoy my life. I enjoy what I do. So why kind of stop it?
Definitely, man. I think if you find something that you enjoy doing, hold on to it for dear life and keep going.
I think so. I think it's probably one of the biggest things I've learned through books and stuff. There's an idea called the hedgehog concept, which I think, if I remember right, is basically you've got something that's financially viable for you, something you enjoy doing, and something you can be the best in the world at. And if you find that sweet spot between the three, kind of stick at it and go all guns blazing for it, that it's not something that's not going to work financially for you, it's not something that you're not passionate about, and it's not something you're not good at. If you find something that matches those three criteria, then you're on to a winner with it if you push it.
Yeah, and I think it's important to say, like, through all the things that you've done in the lead up, all those experiences you've had through football, through personal training, through the different clubs, the way I see it, and just generally in life, all those experiences, you know, start to kind of narrow you down into, and it helps you realise what those three things are.
Totally. It helps you. I think so much of it, you have to, even with football and stuff, it's the same. You have to almost know what you don't want to do before you know what you want to do. You have to kind of get that picture of, this absolutely is not for me. You know, I loved personal training, but I knew training people one-to-one, 6 a.m. to 9 p.m, no matter how much money I earned from it, was not for me long term. You know, I knew it wasn't the way I wanted to live. So you have to do something to change that. Whereas I think if you don't know what you're not okay with, then it's hard to find out what you actually do want to do.
100%. So I do have one final question for you before we get onto the quick fire questions. Okay, and it is, so obviously as a business owner, you're the kind of top of the tree that you're trying to build below you, right? There's nobody above you, you know, holding your hand, telling you, "Oh, Sean, you're doing brilliant here. Keep it going." How do you deal with that? How do you know, like, how do you kind of stay on track, stay focused? How do you know you're doing the right thing without anyone telling you you're doing the right thing?
It's hard, and to be honest, there's probably no answer to that as such. I think it's probably a two-parter. That first and foremost, get a lot of that validation from, in my case, your sort of customers. You know, I get the feeling we're doing something right when financially I see the numbers going in the right way. People are happy in the gym. Staff are happy as well, which is a big one that I'm kind of learning, that they're happy means customers are happy, which means the business is going in the right direction. I think that's where it's super important to have a circle around you, family, friends, but also I've always kind of invested in mentors of people that I kind of can reach out to that are almost separate from my work. It's hard when you'll have seen the same. When I reach out to my mum or my dad, it's like, well, you get one extreme to the next. Of, you've done nothing yet, or oh, we're so proud of you, you've done this, and it's like, that's great, and you need to hear that, but that's not always that helpful. I need an objective view of, that was rubbish, why'd you do that?
Because also they've never done what you're doing.
Exactly. There's so, you know, I don't have any friends that have ever done what I've done. I don't have any family that have ever done what I've done. So that's where I kind of almost look at people in my field. So for me, it's, you know, sort of small independent gym owners. If that's for footballers, it's footballers. If that's for office workers, it's maybe your manager, whatever. And then I say, right, can I glean every bit of information from this person I can? Can I reach out to them? So I've always kind of got, at any one time, 2-3 people in my corner that I can reach out to and say, look, have you had this problem before? What did you do to deal with it? Like, how did you think I dealt with that situation? And that, for me, probably helps keep me grounded a lot with it. They sometimes give me advice, they sometimes give me a kick up the backside, but more often it's like, you're on the right path, you're doing well, you know, these are normal things to struggle with. It's not just you that's experiencing this. So I would definitely say, in any walk of life, kind of find who you look up to, find who's done or is on the path to doing what you want to do, and go and try and work with them in some manner. Yeah,
no, that's really interesting. I think it's basically, I do it as well. You slot yourself in behind someone that you admire, that you think is an inspiration, that's doing what you want to be doing, and it's done it well, it's been successful, and you learn as much as you can from them and try and implement it.
100%. I think even going back to when I played football is one of my biggest strengths, that I take on information really well, and that's, you know, I've done courses, I've been part of Facebook groups for gym owners and stuff, and I just sort of rinse up every bit of information I can. You know, I go and look at posts that successful gym owners had 5 years ago to see what they were struggling with then, and just take in all that information, and then obviously, as we spoke about, just try your best to act on it and actually do something with it.
Yeah. No, amazing. Okay.
The good bit now.
The good bit.
Nervous for what's coming here.
Now, you've no idea what's coming, do you? No. So you've had no time to prepare.
At all.
Okay, mate. So we'll fire through these, and then you can give the listeners an idea of where they can find Sean McKirdy and the gym. Okay.
Perfect.
So, number one, what were your favourite football boots to wear? Because you don't still wear football boots, do you?
My favourite were Adidas Predators, and it shows that although I've only been out of the game a year and a half, I don't even know what they've been replaced with.
They don't make them anymore, do they?
No, they're gone. So it's some sort of Adidas boot. That was generally what I was over Nike.
Okay. Who is your favourite football player?
I always loved Steven Gerrard. Obviously retired just now. My favourite footballer just now is Bernardo Silva. I like watching him.
You still watch?
I still watch football? A lot of games. Yeah, still watch quite a fair bit.
Hearts?
Yeah, whenever they're on, it's painful, but whenever they're on TV, I always watch.
Okay, number 3, what football player did you look up to most growing up? So this could be someone that you admired on the big stage, or someone that you admired directly.
I think there's probably 2 answers to that. Steven Gerrard was sort of, growing up, he was midfielder and all that kind of stuff, who I looked up to, and a bit of an inspirational sort of leader. And then when I played, I've told this story before, but Don Cowie at Hearts, in terms of being like the ultimate sort of professional, someone who did everything that I respected and that I could see myself wanting to do. So I sort of just again tried to copy him, see what he did, followed him quite closely.
Okay. What is the worst pitch / stadium you've ever played at?
That's a hard one. Berwick wasn't great, to be fair. I think that's probably exaggerated.
Berwick Rangers?
Yeah, I think that's probably exaggerated because
weather.
I went on loan there in January, so the weather was bad, and it was my home pitch, so I had to play there every second week. I think I'd have to.
I'm sure it's a carpet in the summer though.
To be fair, it always looks nice in the summer. I never really got to play there, but I think off the top of my head that would have to be. There. I'm sure there'll be one that comes to me that's much worse.
All these lower league pitches are deceiving though. They look okay, from afar from the stand, and then as soon as you get on them, and it's like, what the hell is this?
It's absolutely horrible. A lot of them.
Okay. On the other hand, what is the best pitch or stadium you've ever played at?
The obvious answer would be Tynecastle. Being a Hearts fan, I played against Preston in pre-season and we went down to Deepdale. I think it's got a really, really good pitch, and that would probably be my choice. But the best actual surface, I went with Scotland to a tournament in Mexico and we played on just some sort of training ground pitch there, but it was the first time I'd ever played on a hybrid Astro grass pitch, and it was a really, really good pitch. I was well impressed with that.
Those are amazing, aren't they?
It was a different world at that time to what we were used to.
Then you come back and you're down at Berwick.
And away, and it's not great.
Okay, number 6. What's your favourite book that you've ever kind of read?
That is
there one
tough one, actually.
Well, I'll give you 2.
I'll go 2. I don't know what I'd pick out the 2. Shoe Dog. I think it's Phil Knight. It's the Nike CEO, and Ride of a Lifetime, which is the Disney CEO. I think they're both just a really good middle ground between they are what I would class as like self-development books, but they've got more of a story to them than some of the common. The self-development books are great, but sometimes they are a bit harder to read, whereas those two are more than inspiring enough that you could just pick it up and get right into it, but they also do give you a lot of takeaways from mindset, how they dealt with challenges and stuff. And
if I'm right, I've heard of Shoe Dog, like, is it Phil Knight?
Yes.
Yeah, like, started with very little.
Very, very little. It's a really good book, but it just shows you, I think he started from his apartment or even his mum and dad's bedroom or something, and just built up. And again, that thing of just like, he's talking about all his consistent little wins, and when you're reading it, you forget it's about Nike, and then you get to the end and you're like, oh, look how big they are now. But he's talking about not being able to fit enough boxes of shoes in his office and stuff, and it's mad, isn't it? Crazy. It just shows.
But it's the consistency, isn't
it's
it?
the same things.
The delayed gratification.
That's it. That's the new phrase.
Okay, favourite film ever?
Inception.
That's
a weird answer.
That's
my go-to.
It's a good film. A little bit confusing though.
I think that's why I like it. Cause you watch it 3-4 times and it starts making a bit of sense.
Favourite food ever?
I never expect that to be
you
a
like
tough
your food,
one.
don't you?
I like a good.
I know you like cakes and
I like
and
a good
pastries.
steak.
I've also got a almond croissant for you up there.
I tried them.
You
to
sniffed
be fair,
them out.
I'd probably say an almond croissant. It started off as like a pre-gym snack and then just became this sort of cult thing. We've got half the members at the gym going to the same place as us now, so that would definitely be it.
Okay, there we go, almond croissant. And I added this one in for you because I know you do enjoy a quote. Favourite quote?
Now,
you get any off the top of your head?
Put me on the spot.
We can come back to it.
It's not my favourite one, but it's one I heard quite recently. Is that you need to cut your cloth according to how you want your cloth, and it takes a while to get your head around. But basically saying, you shouldn't cut your cloth how someone else wants to live their life. It needs to be what's right for you. That work-life balance I've got might not be right for someone else, but I need to decide what's right for me and go for it. And I think probably more for business, but that definitely inspired me to say I'm not trying to compare myself to other people's business. And I think on that, probably my actual favourite would be comparison is the thief of joy. That it's a very cliche one these days, but it's totally true that with social media and stuff, it's so easy to go and look and think, I'm not doing as well as them, I'm not doing as well as them, I'm not doing as well as them, but you only see a snippet of what they're doing and you don't know what's going on behind the scenes.
100%. I like those. I like them. Okay, last two, slightly longer. What do you define success as? So in your life or just generally?
To me, definitely sort of like getting to smile and be happy every day. If every day getting to do something I enjoy, whether that's my own training, whether it's seeing family and friends. I think my goal in life has always to be, and I'm not there yet, but to get to a point of freedom. And I think that's a word that's thrown about a lot these days. And I don't mean that as in not working and stuff, but almost having that power to choose how I'm going to spend my days. To me, just now, I work really, really hard. But if tomorrow two of my friends wanted to go away on holiday for 4 days, I could go and do that. And I think that to me is success. And then just knowing whatever you do that's important to you, that you've kind of given it everything you can. When I got released off Hearts, I couldn't look back and say I should have done this or I should have done that. I'd done everything I could realistically do. And that's not success, but it means you can look back on it and say, well, it was factors out with my control, ability, whatever, that meant I didn't achieve what I wanted to achieve, or when you do achieve success, you can say that was all on me from sort of the hard work.
You've done yourself justice, kind of thing. And I think that's an interesting point, that what you're talking about there is a lot about the processes. Yeah. Like that's the best bit.
I think that like it's more common knowledge now, but the end goal, whatever that is never as good as you think it is. You know, whether it's making your debut for Hearts, getting to 100 members within the gym, it's never as sweet as it sounds. But the good bit is in the struggle to get there, and then the chaos in between is almost what's enjoyable when you look back.
When you look back,
but in the moment, definitely not at the time.
Okay, final question. What would you say to a young player or business owner or any individual starting off on their journey?
Probably similar to what we spoke about. I would say find something you're passionate about and just work really, really hard at it. Just stick in with it, work really, really hard, and then once you've got that thing, pick out 2-3 people who are where you want to be in that field, or at least towards where you want to be, and just get every bit of information you can out of them, whether that's by paying them to be mentors, whether that's by stalking what they used to do on social media and stuff, and just kind of ruthlessly go in that direction. As much as we spoke about the benefits of footballers doing other things as well, of kind of sticking to, you know, that is my focus. I've got other interests, but for us, for example, with the gym, you know, just now we want to be the best private in-person gym in Edinburgh. You know, we don't want to be an online facility. We've got that, but that'll come at some point, whereas I think too many people, they almost have 4 or 5 things that it's like distracts interest, and I think you need to have that to then whittle them down to that's the direction I want to go in, but not trying to do too many things at once, or naturally it'll get diluted a bit with that.
Okay, interesting. There we go. Quick fire done and dusted.
Actually too long to be
fair.
They were
okay, weren't they?
It went all right. That was not as bad as I thought.
Okay, so before we head off, where can people find yourself and the gym?
So for me, I'm just at Sean McKirdy 98 on Instagram, and confusingly at Sean McKirdy 34 on Twitter, but Instagram's the one I mainly sort of use. The gym, we're Elevate 98, so we're just www.elevate98.co.uk, and we're at Elevate 9.8 on Instagram. That's pretty much our platform that we use. Okay, perfect. So what I'll do is I will link in, you know, the gym and your account and stuff in the show notes below, and apart from that, I think that's us, mate. It's been a pleasure. Almond croissant time. Looking forward to it. Thank you very much. All right. Pleasure.